Hello there, I'm Benjinator12, and today we're going to be looking at the Transformers Titans Return Hardhead, part of this brand new line that Hasbro's doing that resurrects the Headmaster gimmick. And what better way to start off than with one of the most iconic Headmasters? He's iconic to me, Hardhead. Hardhead transforms into this green and charcoal and tan and just a little bit of transparent orangey Cybertronian or futuristic H-Tank, depending on how you look at things. Some people would say, it doesn't exist on Earth, therefore it must be Cybertronian. But, Cybertronian purists, explain this hatch for tiny people. You can't. In this mode, he doesn't have a whole lot of articulation, of course, because it's a vehicle mode. His turret section here does not rotate on its own, as many third-party Hardheads do, but it does have this platform, which is on two hinges that allow his main gun to rise up and then articulate around. It's mounted on a 5mm post, so it can be held in the hands of other Transformer figures as well. In other features for vehicle mode include the robot mode's gun that can peg right down onto his main gun for a double gun crazy thing. But the biggest feature of vehicle mode is the interactivity with Hardhead's Headmaster, the Headmaster formerly known as Duros, now known as Furos. And look at this little green guy. He's got the same tan color going on as the robot mode, even though his is molded in. That's plastic that is matching the color, if I can focus it there. Yes, that is plastic that is matching the color of the painted in sections here, and it does a pretty stellar job. As you can see, he's got molded details on his face that includes a nose and even a little chin. The paint is for his eyes and face are a little sloppier, not quite as crisp as what we see on the robot mode, and there is a little bit of plastic flash right down here on the waist, but I think I can forgive that given how small he is. On the back, we'll see the robot mode head there. Now, Furos can interact with the vehicle mode in a couple of different ways. The first being that he can fit into the cockpit that opens up there. It closes up, and now it looks like he's driving it. I think that's the best one. But if for some reason you don't like that idea, he can also sit in the main gun, which opens up with that hinge tab there, and act like he's manning it that way. I don't think it looks nearly as good, and he falls out really easily. So, in my opinion, the cockpit mode is the best interaction. In addition, he also has these very small pegs in the feet that allow him to just clip onto these 4 ports that are located throughout the vehicle mode. He can just peg his foot on there, and I don't know what he's doing there. Maybe vomiting over the side. Anyways, that's enough of vehicle mode. Let's go to robot mode. Alright, to transform into robot mode, we're going to sort of disconnect these front tread pieces. We're also going to want to disconnect the back tread pieces, which swing outward on these hinges. If we flip it over, we'll see they're connected to the legs, which are all tabbed in here. We want to untab them by pulling them out even further. And also, while we're here, we can flip this panel down to form the crotch. Now, we'll just sort of break him in half, really, by swinging this whole assembly down here, and then folding this part above here back, and the turret assembly down. It pegs in to secure along the back. Now we collapse the legs inward. We carefully fold out these finicky little feet. We rotate the arm assemblies down, extend them out to full length, and pull out the fists. Of course, the final step will be taking little Furos here and transforming into the head mode, which is simply folding his legs up into himself and using his head as a peg to clip into Hardhead's neck joint. Let's push him down a notch. There we go. Alright, and here we have him in robot mode. So taking a look at Hardhead here in robot mode, you can see the translucent orange rollers that were on the bottom of the tank, and of course this decorative piece used for the crotch adds in a lot more vibrant colors. His head, formed from Furos there, is nicely painted in with this yellow mask and the blue visor being fairly crisp for such small paint applications. That's something that's very different because up until this point, Hasbro's mostly relied on light piping separate pieces of plastic that come through for the eyes as much as possible. In terms of articulation for this guy, he's fairly good. Each arm, the arm here is on a hinge that connects in the body that goes out into a ball joint for the shoulder, meaning that there's a huge range, 360 degrees for this, and also up and down movement here. That's pretty good. Below the shoulder, he has a dedicated bicep swivel, and then a double jointed elbow. Look at that, for just a little more than 90 degrees. His wrists, which fold out, are on a separate peg, mushroom peg here, so that they can also rotate, which is a nice feature. A lot of Transformers that have fold-out wrists in that fashion don't have wrist articulation, so it's good that Hasbro went the extra mile there, though the assembly does look a little awkward. He has no waist joint. The transformation involves him being hinged in multiple points across his back that just simply wouldn't allow for him to turn. So no waist joint there, no ab crunch or anything, but for the legs, he does have ball joints into a universal joint styled ball joint receptor that allows him to do the full splits. This has, of course, a thigh swivel, as in mushroom peg, which is pretty standard now for Transformers. A single jointed knee for a 90-degree bend. And no articulation on the feet specifically. They can bend inward if you pop them out of their little cozy joint, but they are cut at a A stance for some more dynamic posing options. It's a fair amount of articulation. The arms especially are very good, and a lot of other, I can say this by looking at them, a lot of other Titan Masters or figures have this arm assembly that gives them that just phenomenal range. So Hardhead's not alone in that. In terms of his appearance, I really dig his design. It's very faithful to his appearance in G1, but with, modernized traits and in a small package. He's about the same size as most other deluxes. The details are just really crisply molded, and his proportions are pretty good. I do think his arms are a little long, though. However, there is a solution to that, which is to collapse them inward. You still have access to that his elbow joints, but with them collapsed inward, they look just a little less overly long, in my opinion. But you might be fine with it. In terms of action features in this mode, because Furos is occupying his head, he is not going to be able to do much with him. But you do have the gun, which can peg right into the fist, and of course he can wield it however he wants, and of course with that articulation in the wrist, he can tilt it crazy-like if you want. And his main gun can use its articulation to fold up over his shoulder for really a lot of firepower. So, what is my verdict on Titan's Return Hardhead? I think it's a pretty solid figure. For the $15 that most deluxes cost this day, you're getting, a pretty good representation of Hardhead, really, in a compact little package with good articulation. I don't think there's a whole lot more you could ask for, especially with the engineering that Hasbro used for this kit. And I personally am a big fan of his design over some of the other options in Wave 1 There are some more figures coming on later on that I think I might be a little more passionate about. But as for right now, I think he might be one of the better choices in the lineup. You know, Scourge is a little too blue, as is Blur, and I mean, if you're not a big fan of crocodiles, you might want to stay away from the Skull Cruncher or Skull Smasher, whatever he's called now. But Hardhead really fits the sort of middle ground of being just a very reasonable figure. You get what you pay for, and I'd say a little more in terms of how good the engineering is here. This is a fun little toy, and I'd recommend it as one of the better Titans Return figures I've experienced. So I say, if you're a Transformers fan that likes yourself some tanks and is not looking to break the bank with a Voyager or something, this Titans Return Hardhead, you know, he's pretty darn good. Check him out. Anyway, that's all for today. This is Benjinator12, and thank you guys for watching.